Hey guys, welcome back to the CARF L-39 Skygate build video series. If you guys have any questions, comments, make sure you list them below. I'll do my best to answer them. Also, if you have not subscribed to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. When you hit the subscribe button, also hit the bell and you'll be notified of new videos from this build. Also, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, and thanks so much for tuning in. Alright guys, so we're moving on to the nose assembly now, and I did a couple things here. So number one, I just checked the travel of the nose door itself. So basically, I mean, it's not exactly rocket science, but just holding this, I kind of figured out where I was sitting and opened the door all the way, measured it again, and basically that's the amount of door travel we came up with. So it's 25 millimeters is what it is. Yours may be different, so don't take that number exactly as it needs to be. But so what I did from there is confirm that we'd have enough movement on the servo. So we do. There's the movement that we need, and it's more about positioning as well too. So basically the servo is going to be moving like this to open up the door. And I figured the best spot for it would in fact be mounting it about there, because it's almost in line with that. This is where the hole is to open up the gear door, and so I figure something like that should work good. The ball will be sitting on this side of the servo horn, parallel with this direction on the servo, and then this will be sitting this way. So that should work perfect, and so that's where I wanted the servo mounted. Next thing to do is figure out how to mount the servo, and I figured that we'd use these two blocks and basically glue them, high saw them here roughly, and then there, and the servo is going to fit right in between them. So what it's going to end up looking like is, okay, so something like this, right? And it's basically going to sit right inside the area like that. So now it doesn't look like it would interfere with the leg coming up. That should be fine. I don't suspect that it would interfere with that the nose leg. If it does, I guess we'll have to re-engineer it, but that's kind of what we're doing for the next step. So I'm just going to get those high sawed in place. Most likely going to get the measurement on them that I need to have spaced out. I'm going to mark on the former here exactly where I want this one to be, and then I will put some high saw there and also tack it with a little bit of CA and some quick cure just to make sure it stays in place, and then I will measure it, mount the other one, and we should be good. Alright guys, so continuing with the nose gear here. This is the mount that it's all done. It's been a couple days, so this is nice and strong now. Not going anywhere, it's solid. So this is not the servo setup that's going to go in there, so it's a little bit wonky. But this is what it's going to look like. So that's the servo setup for the nose gear door. Again, the servo horn and everything's not for it, but basically we're right here. There's going to be a linkage going from the servo horn to the hole that's right there. Right there on the pivot. And that's it. So it's quite simple how the front is set up. And again, I don't think it's going to interfere with the front gear. I got notification that the gear is on its way, or it'll be on its way on Monday, I think, or something like that. So it is coming very, very soon. Hopefully we'll see it next week, depending on shipping. So, front nose gear is done. Now we need to work on the main landing gear. So I guess the front nose gear isn't done, but it's close. So what we are going to do, I think, for the main landing gear is I've got these left over from a previous build. And they're nice servo plates, and I think this is what we're going to use on the main gear for the L-39. I think that we're going to high sol these in place. What I did here, so done a little bit of research, actually a lot of research on some of the other builds that I've done online, and the hole for the pivot arm is right here. The stock mounting location is right there. You can see those two little slots. So if you were using an air cylinder, that's where it would come, right like that. So I'm pretty sure that if we have a horn or a control rod coming in that direction, it shouldn't interfere. So my thinking, and you can see I put the bypass in here, I just used clamps just so I knew how much space I had to work with. But that's not good. We need some light in there. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to mount the servo somewhere in that location. The horn right now is on the facing us, the upper portion of the servo. We could flip it around and put it on the lower portion, but I don't think we need to. And the other important thing is getting it in line with the pivot. So we actually need to go back a little bit, I think. And it would need to be somewhere about there to line up the servo horn, which is right there, in line with the pivot, depending on which side we want it to go on. So I do want it to go on this side of the hinge for the door, not the outer side, the other side. So it's wanting it to go on that side. So I think if we line the horns up, or line the horn and the pivot up, that should be good. But that's kind of the location we're looking for there. It's almost the stock location for the standard air cylinder. So I think that should work good. I'd like to have the gear here to see, but because it's such a close location, the only other thing that I'm thinking about is this is again hard to see, sorry guys, is the servo horn length. So with that servo horn, it's only like 1.5 inch servo horn. Some of the videos or some of the build threads I've seen online, it's got a really, really long servo horn, so we need to get that figured out. That would be nice just because it actually pushes the control rod out of the way, and might be beneficial. I'm not sure yet. I have to play with a little bit of geometry, but regardless, I think if we get the plate mounted where we need to get it mounted, then we can play with servo horn lengths and go from there. So regardless, the plate needs to be mounted where the horn and the hinge are on a parallel line is what we're looking for. So that's the next step that I need to work through, and we'll see what happens. Okay guys, so I figured out, I think, the best way to go ahead with this to mount it. It's really difficult to work in this area, so what I did was temporarily mount the servo to this tray that I'm going to high sol onto the structure here. Now one thing is when you put this in there, there's about 2 holes, I think this one and that one, that line up with usable wood. So I was thinking about just screwing this into place, getting it all lined up, and then high soling it. But what I'm going to do is high sol this in place, clamp it, let it cure, and then I'll go back, take the servo out, and drill out those 2 holes, and then put some screws through there just in case. I just don't want this coming off because it's a fairly smooth surface. High sol should do just fine, but I did roughen up the surface with a saw blade there just to add a bit more traction, and I'll go ahead and glue this in place now. Okay guys, there's one clamped in place. I know it's kind of hard to see, but there it is. Now I got to do a little bit of cleanup here because some of the high sol came through that bolt hole right there, so I don't want it to glue the servo in place, obviously. But you can see from the back side here, there's not a lot of solid traction on that surface because of all the cutouts on the former. So one of the things that made this a lot easier was bringing your arm through the other side, holding that servo in place while you clamp it. It's just not a convenient place to work. So I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup on that high sol and then work on the other side. Okay guys, both of the servo mounts for the main gear doors are in. They're high soled and just waiting to cure, so kind of hard to see, but they're in that mess there. Also mounted the nose servo, so that's all mounted nice and solid. I made a special arm here. It's got to be really, really short, but this is basically the arm length that I needed. So what I did was cut down this larger end ball link, and this is, I mean, it's fairly self-explanatory. Basically, it's got to be at an opposing 90-degree angle. This is the exact length I needed. There's a rod in there. I put some high sol in there, so it's curing right now, so it'll be nice and solid. So that's what I did there. Next thing I'm doing is I figured I would install the light for the underside. So it's right there. Just put it in, and the light is right there. Just doing a little bit of centering on it, but that's basically it. So I just marked it out, cut a hole. Fairly straightforward. High solid on the top side. Okay guys, there is the light for the underside installed. I just have the weight on top of it right now just for so it can cure in the right spot. The light cover or lens is not installed on the bottom. I'll do that when it's all cured. I got the top light installed. The high sol is still wet. I'm just going to install the reflector. So what I did was cut a nice square. There's little cutouts for the wires. That goes in place, gets high soled, and then I put high sol around a little bit larger than the reflector or the lens cover is going to be, and then we'll just clean up around the reflector. And kind of hard to see, but there's the underside of the installed light. Try that again. There's the underside of the installed light with the little heat sink on there. So I'm going to install this reflector, or the lens cover. So pop that down in place. There we go. And then we'll just clean up around the reflector to clean up the high sol, and we'll be all good. Looks awesome. Super bright too. All right guys, and there is the final product. The lens cap's installed with a nice clean line around it. I'm just going to add a little bit of weight to the lens cap. Could tape it down, but the weight's easy, so that is it. So we got to wait for those things to cure before we really do anything else, and that's the progress so far. Okay guys, I don't think the camera is going to capture how bright these lights are, but they are absolutely insane how bright they are. So there's the top one. Like, hurts to look at it. And you can see the bottom one there. Oh my goodness. What a wicked light set. Just awesome. Very nice.